In this video, I'm going to show you how I use ClickUp for client account management to keep clients happy, boost productivity, and to keep your business profitable. I'm going to go over 4 crucial things to systemize to do just that. So what are these systems? Now, the first is the account management list. In the last video in this series, I talked about how to systemize client services, aka the thing we actually sell to our clients, what they pay us for. So now that we have our most time-consuming aspect of our business systemized, we can turn our focus to the less obvious account management tasks. And there are 2 ways that you could use this list. The first is to capture any of those special client touch points that you do for your clients. For example, it could be providing a weekly status update over Slack, or a quick status update email. Or let's say you just provide them with the monthly invoices from Meta from your ad campaigns. By creating these client touchpoints as recurring tasks, we make sure to deliver on those client experiences no matter what. By using a recurring task, the task will automatically recreate itself depending on the frequency that you set it to. That means you'll never miss it. The second reason you would want to use the account management list is to capture track time and manage scope. For anyone who doesn't know the term scope or use it, we're just talking about ensuring that the amount of time the client is paying you for or the amount of effort is not exceeded, aka when you start to work for free. I always include a client meetings task. And I use it to set due dates for upcoming meetings so it shows up in my task list. I track time to it so I can see how much time I'm spending on client meetings. And if I've earmarked a certain amount of hours in our contract for meetings, I may also include that in the time estimate so I can just monitor how much time I'm spending versus what I actually allocated. This is really helpful for monitoring where your time is going and for also keeping the client accountable. If you see a certain account is always going over scope and you're seeing that it's because of meetings, you can approach the client from this place of, I need more hours specifically for meetings. And in that way, it gives them a chance to consider how much time they're spending on client meetings and either become more organized or pay you accordingly. So for this one, I like to set it so it recreates each month with a new task for new time tracking and a new time estimate for that month of scope. So now that we have a way to ensure our clients feel taken care of and we're tracking all of the time that we spend in the account, let's move on to the next area to systemize, and that is the client notebook. So if we come back to that monthly meetings recurring task, instead of keeping track of all of our meeting minutes inside of a Google Doc or another third-party tool, we're going to set ourselves up with a client notebook. And we're going to place it in the sidebar for a quick and easy reference point. Within the doc, we're going to use pages and subpages, and we can even include a template page so you can duplicate the meeting minutes template that you like to use, so you can quickly and easily prepare for meetings, capture meeting minutes, and even create tasks quickly afterwards from the meeting minutes. Inside of the client meetings task, we'll include a quick link to the database so we never have to track down the information or go looking for it. This makes it super easy to focus and be more productive rather than clicking around to other tools and wasting time trying to find the information that we need when we need it. Essentially, it just helps with your workflow. So now that we have a simplified workflow for capturing meeting minutes, let's talk about scope management. And specifically, let's talk about the scope management dashboard. So remember before I said scope management is just about making sure that the amount of time and effort you put in doesn't exceed what the client is paying you for. Successful business people understand that their time is worth money and they're not afraid to charge for it. So this is crucial to incorporate into your business practice if you want to grow. I talk endlessly about how ClickUp's native time tracking combined with your use of spaces, folders, and lists opens up a whole world of opportunity to better understand your business and how well you're managing your clients. In the account management list, we talked about recurring tasks for client meetings, which you could also use for tasks like project management or even instant messaging if you're in a client's Slack. These are time tracking placeholders to capture some of that time that usually doesn't get tracked. Now, assuming that you are using those tasks and you're tracking time in them and every other task in the account, this dashboard is where you will come to monitor your client scope throughout the month. This is a very simple dashboard setup using time tracking cards, and it allows us to play with filters to see whatever information we find most valuable at that time. For example, if you've sold a particular client a project of 20 hours, I would want to be monitoring that client's time tracked against that total amount of hours that I sold to them. But you might change around the date ranges if it's not a monthly recurring client. As a side note, I like to use a text box to just simply manually input each client I have and the scope and how I've got it allocated to each account, just so I can keep track of it. It doesn't have to be fancy. Now, if we have a retainer client, we might have a separate time tracking card for this month time range. You can use the filters to dig into where your time is specifically going into that account. And if you see a client is going over scope, you can understand and dig a little deeper into where that's happening and why it's happening. So you can either approach them for a slightly different agreement, or you can try and find your own ways to be more efficient. Now, you can also use this for billing your clients when you're doing invoicing, especially if you charge different rates for different types of work. Now, that brings us to our fourth and final way to systemize account management in ClickUp, and that is the strategy and planning list. Now, if you've made it this far in the video, you'll probably really like my newsletter. It's called Unapologetically Organized, and I'm sharing all kinds of tips about ClickUp specifically for marketing freelancers that you can't find anywhere else on the internet. Sign up, there's a link in the description below, and let's continue on with the video. So what is a strategy and planning list? When we're working with clients, there are always important dates that we need to keep track of in marketing. If you're doing a specific campaign, potentially you have a registration open date, early bird, cart close, webinars, maybe even a date when you're planning to launch a new ebook. All of this information is really helpful to have when we're planning out projects and tasks for context. So instead of trying to remember them or wasting time going to an external third-party tool where you're keeping track of them somewhere else, I like to keep track of important dates inside of ClickUp. I've used this with a really large client and a full funnel campaign, and it was really helpful. The best part about it was how I could then take those dates and group them into a single view with all of the content I created, so I could look at everything from a bird's eye view to ensure that messaging was synced with the dates that were happening at that time. Now, this is a more complex way of using ClickUp, so don't get overwhelmed if you're not there yet. I just think it's important so you can see how much you can grow into ClickUp, and it's always worth showing how powerful it is. Remember, this is an investment in your business in the long run. It is a marathon, not a sprint. And that's it. That is all 4 areas of systemization for client account management. Now you can see how all those little client interactions can come together into a very simple, streamlined system. And to recap, there are 3 main benefits to using a system like this. 1, so you can make sure that your client has a positive experience by automating touch points and always following through on your promises. 2, making sure we have full visibility into where our time is going and how much time we're spending on each account. And 3, reducing how many tools we use to eliminate context switching and unnecessary clicking around that interrupts our workflow. In the next video in this series, we're talking about how ClickUp can systemize the moments we collaborate with our clients. Until next time, keep growing, keep systemizing.